My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you're here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Mother Immaculate, St. Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. The Jews fetched stones to stone him. So Jesus said to them, I have done many good works for you to see, works from my Father. For which of these are you stoning me? The Jews answered him, We're not stoning you for a good work, but for blasphemy. You are only a man, and you claim to be God. What about you? Are you going to pick up a stone and throw it at Jesus? Here's this man claiming to be God. That's blasphemy, no? To put yourself on an equal footing to God, to somehow reduce the honor which is due to God, to offend against his almighty holiness by suggesting that a mere man can be God. That's blasphemy. Pick up that stone and throw it at him, if that's what you think. He claims to be God. This man, he has such high expectations of us. He says things that are difficult for us to accept. Love your enemy. Do good to those who persecute you. Forgive others their trespasses. This is my body and blood. How can this man claim these things? How can this man make our life more difficult by these high expectations? Go on, pick up that stone and throw it at him. Give him what he deserves. Make him suffer for the ways in which he makes us suffer with his high and lofty thoughts. No, you say he's the Son of God. Well, surely he can't be like us then if he's the Son of God. How can he understand the sufferings that we face in our own humanity? How can he understand my weaknesses? How can he understand my sinfulness? If he's the Son of God, then he is far removed from me. And I might as well throw a stone at him. Because what good is he to me? He's far, he's distant. He doesn't bear any reference to my life. If that's what you think, pick up the stone and throw it at Jesus. No, you say. He is fully God and he is fully man. That's what the church professes. That's what the theologians tell us about him. He is fully God and he is fully man. He is like me. He does understand my sufferings, but he is also God. Well, then you will believe him completely and totally. Surely you will want to spend all your time with him. You will want to put him at the very center of everything that you do. Maybe you won't pick up the stone if you think that. You see this man, Jesus, standing before us, who has done all these amazing and wonderful works. Maybe you saw somebody be healed. Maybe you saw somebody be consoled by some word that he said. And you too believe that he is the Son of God. Well, you won't stone him for that. But what's the value of your belief? Is this the man that you really want to give your life to? Is this the Jesus that you have been waiting for? Is this the Messiah, the one who will save us from our sins? Is this the Jesus of my life? Standing before me now with a stone in my hand. Will I throw it or will I drop it? Might seem a little bit fanciful for us to be praying in this way. But Jesus faces terrible violence today in the gospel for people who cannot accept what he has to say or who he is. Jesus, you come to show us the way to the Father. You come to forgive us our sins. And yet, it can be difficult at times for us to grasp the totality of your love for us, that maybe we run from it even at times. Maybe that feeling of inferiority maybe makes us feel that we want to pick up a stone like those others and throw it at you because they just can't grasp what you're saying. And so we lay this terrible charge of blasphemy against you because it's easy to call people names. It's easy to throw accusations at people whenever really we can't quite understand how to make sense of this in our own lives. In 1 week's time, we're going to celebrate Good Friday. And when we stand in the church on Good Friday and we hear the reading of the Passion, we are invited to participate in that. Not as bystanders, not as people who 2,000 years later are just recounting a story, but we're called to participate that in the sense that it is relevant to us right in this moment. And standing in the courtyard of Pilate, we too will shout, "Crucify him, crucify him." Because that is what he does for our sins. He dies upon the cross because of our guilt. And so how can it be that we see this scene of Jesus standing in the gospel today, people accusing him of being a blasphemer, about to stone him, and we might even feel a kind of a revulsion against that. And yet in a week's time, we too will be shouting, "Crucify him, crucify him." Jesus, I think the greatest violence that we often do to you is the violence of indifference. Even though we might believe, even though we might have moments of great consolation in our prayer, we can make great plans and we think you're truly at the center, very quickly our hearts get cold to you, Jesus. And so maybe as we are on the threshold of Holy Week, we need to be reminded of that. As we see you in a situation of violence, of people ready to go beyond themselves in order to do you harm, do we want to defend you, Jesus? Or do we want to attack you as they do? Where is our heart in all of this? Are we going to show some love, some desire towards you in some way? Yes, I think the greatest violence that we often do to you is that we don't love you, Jesus. We don't love you as you want us to love you. With our frailties, with our weaknesses, sure. But to just put you at the center, to surrender all that we have to you. Sometimes we don't do that. And it's why it's good for us, Jesus, to live out these sacred liturgies with all our heart and to participate in them. In 1 week's time, as I said, we will be standing with all of the others in the courtyard before Pilate, having seen you scourged, having seen you ready to face your death. And we too will shout, "Crucify him, crucify him." And if we can't understand that you're doing that for love of us, Jesus, then how can we ever respond to you with love ourselves? There's a poem which was written by an Englishman about Jesus going to Calvary, but he changed it slightly and wrote it about Jesus going to Birmingham, but it could be any city. And really it speaks about the indifference that Jesus, you suffer through hearts that do not love you. When Jesus came to Golgotha, they hanged him on a tree. They drove great nails through hands and feet and made a Calvary. They crowned him with a crown of thorns. Red were his wounds and deep, for those were crude, cruel days, and human flesh was cheap. When Jesus came to Birmingham, they simply passed him by. They would not hurt a hair of him. They only let him die. For men had grown tender, and they would not give him pain. They only just passed down the street and left him in the rain. Still Jesus cried, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." And still it rained, the winter rain that drenched him through and through. The crowds went home and left the streets without a soul to see. And Jesus crouched against a wall and cried for Calvary. Jesus, the greatest violence that we can do to you today is to not love you, is to not put you at the center, is to not struggle with you, is to not ask you for your help. As we go to live the mysteries of your death and resurrection, help us, Jesus, to see that you did this for us in order that we can do something for you, that we can give you our hearts, and that we can be with you, Jesus. I give you thanks for the good resolutions affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me during this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.